they cry.
In torment, they die.
Now bloodied, their bodies lie.
That was DxE's very first protest 10 years ago in January 2013.
DxE has come a long way from this disruption to daylight open rescues, slaughterhouse lockdowns, and even winning a groundbreaking not guilty verdict for open rescue in the Smithfield trial.
And today we're going to go back through the years and look at how we got here.
Because this month we're celebrating DxE's 10th anniversary.
Woo!
So we want to review our biggest achievements from the past decade. Let's go back to 2013, when DxE launched and started doing actions inside grocery stores and restaurants, disrupting the status quo to speak up for animals. In August of 2013, DxE did its first ever march as part of the Earthlings Worldwide March for Animal Liberation.
Our march has come to an end, but let's make sure that this end is also a beginning.
It really was a beginning. We've done so many marches and so many disruptions since then, building up the skills to pull off even greater disruptions of the status quo.
By 2014, as DxE's international network grew, cities around the world participated in coordinated campaigns like #DisruptSpeciesism. In LA, Eugene, Boston, Toronto, and other cities, people walked right into stores and said, "It's not food.
It's violence." And these weren't just one-off protests either. DxE was building a full-on campaign to expose the humane myth, the idea that there's a humane or kind way to kill animals. And DxE was focused on two key companies that were perpetuating this myth: Chipotle and Whole Foods.
In 2015, that campaign took a huge leap forward when DxE released its first open rescue at a Whole Foods supplying, certified humane egg farm in Petaluma, California. Investigators rescued Mei Hua, a little hen who was on the brink of death, and then documented her recovery over the following weeks and produced an inspiring video.
But that video wasn't just posted on DxE's social media, it was also posted by the New York Times in an article that called the video findings disturbing.
That was DxE's first time in the New York Times,
but not the last.
In 2016, DxE exposed cannibalism at a Costco cage-free egg farm called Pleasant Valley Farms and rescued Ella.
And this investigation was covered by both the New York Times and the Washington Post. And the Washington Post article cut right to the violence. It was titled, "Her Head Has Been Torn Off. Activist Film Alleges Abuse at Costco-Linked Cage-Free Egg Farm."
And the New York Times coverage actually told Ella's story. It says, "The video focuses on a hen that Direct Action Everywhere rescued and named Ella. When the organization found her in the cage-free barn, she was struggling to pull herself up and had lost most of her feathers. Her back was covered in feces."
So Ella's name got out there, and open rescue was gaining more attention. And then, in 2017, DxE did its first daylight open rescue. Activists walked into a slaughterhouse in San Francisco in broad daylight, holding flowers and cameras, and started looking for birds in need of care. They carried 6 individuals out to freedom that day.
DxE co-founder Wayne Sheng was arrested that day after he refused to leave the slaughterhouse without the rest of the animals. That action was a pivotal moment for DxE. It showed that ordinary people can bring liberation and light even to a place as dark as a slaughterhouse.
And then in 2018, we saw that on a massive scale. At the Animal Liberation Conference, over 500 activists gathered at a factory egg farm called Sunrise Farms in Petaluma, California. This farm had been exposed for criminal animal cruelty, but the authorities had failed to act.
So people took action themselves that day, rescuing 37 birds from Sunrise Farms.
Which is also a Whole Foods supplier, so the campaign continues.
Right. And 40 people were arrested this time.
Let's jump to 2019. During the Animal Liberation Conference, once again, hundreds of activists gathered at a factory farm in Sonoma County that had been repeatedly investigated and exposed for animal cruelty. The farm, Reichart, raises ducks for their flesh and has a slaughterhouse on site. Some activists rescued ducks from the farm, and others chained themselves to the slaughter equipment and also to the front gate of the facility.
32 ducks were rescued and 80 activists were arrested. Now let's go to 2020. A global pandemic hit, the conference was canceled, and we had to adapt pretty much all of our plans for the year.
Yeah. But that left us open to shift gears and go where we could be most useful. As slaughterhouses shut down due to COVID-19, farms started killing off the animals that they couldn't send to slaughter, including using very horrific mass kill methods such as ventilation shutdown plus, or VSD+, where animals are essentially roasted alive.
DxE investigators acted on a tip from an employee whistleblower with Iowa Select Farms, and a team, led by Matt Johnson, went right to the scene to capture VSD on hidden camera. They exposed pigs shrieking in agony as they were blasted with steam and heat exceeding 140 degrees in a barn with the ventilation ports closed. 2 to 3 hours into the process, workers carrying bolt guns opened the doors and walked through the barn, shooting pigs who were still alive.
And this footage horrified the public, of course, and actually subsequent pressure campaigning resulted in Iowa Select Farms announcing that they would no longer use ventilation shutdown.
In 2021, DxE continued to target powerful animal abusers, including foster farms. During the 2021 Animal Liberation Conference, activists staged a blockade in the main entrance of the Foster Farms Livingston Slaughterhouse, California's largest slaughterhouse, where hundreds of workers contracted COVID-19 and millions of chickens are violently killed every week. The facility had recently expanded with funding from the governor's office. DxE released hidden camera footage from inside the facility exposing criminal animal cruelty and showing why California should be halting the expansion of this industry, not actively funding it.
And there were also 3 separate rescues that happened during this action. One team rescued birds from a stopped slaughter truck right outside the facility. Another team rescued birds from the kill floor inside the facility. And yet another team went to a Foster Farms factory farm in the area and rescued 10 birds that day.
That brings us to 2022.
Finally.
And you probably already know what our biggest win in 2022 was.
Winning the Smithfield trial.
DxE investigators won a groundbreaking not guilty verdict on charges of burglary and theft for their investigation of Smithfield Foods, the largest pig-killing company in the world, and for the rescue of Lily and Lizzie, 2 sick and starving piglets that they found inside the factory farm.
It was incredible to hear Lily and Lizzie's stories being told in court. Even the prosecutors and the judge were referring to them by name, not like objects, but like individuals. And it was kind of like in that courtroom, they transformed from being property to being people. But of course, we have a long way to go to achieve legal personhood for animals and protection under the law. But these right to rescue cases are one of the ways that we're going to get there, and this was a major victory for the right to rescue.
Plus, beyond the jurors that we went over, we got millions of people hearing about the trial through social media and through coverage in the New York Times, The Intercept, Democracy Now!, Vox, and more.
And all of this was just one highlight from each year. There's so much more that we've done, from exposing the dog meat trade in Yuling to rescuing Rose, the hen who inspired the Rose's Law movement,
plus providing the grassroots power needed to pass California's historic ban on fur farming and fur sales, and capturing footage at Farmer John, and then locking down the slaughterhouse in a series of escalating actions.
And so much more. We can't possibly cover it all here, but if we could do all of that in our first 10 years, then imagine what we can do in the next 10 years building off this momentum.
I can't wait to see. And if you want to be part of our groundbreaking work for animals, please join us at the Animal Liberation Conference in 2023.
You've seen some of the amazing things that we've done at the Animal Liberation Conference, so you don't want to miss this.
You can find out more information and register at liberationconference.com.